Alrighty, fantastic. We'll start off, everyone. Well, welcome. Thanks so much for coming along on this dreary Amsterdam afternoon. I'm Claire. I work in the university programs team. I'm joined here with Felix and Sendil today. Thank you so much for inviting us to have a chat with you. We have plenty of different things lined up for you today, both technical and non-technical, just to have a bit of variation. And then also plenty of time for questions at the end. So we'll be with you for about the next 40-ish minutes and yeah, go from there. So as I mentioned, these are the three people that you've got here. I'll quickly get Sendil and Felix to say a quick hello.
Hi there, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Fantastic. So they will introduce themselves in a little bit more detail shortly. I have been at Uber now for a little bit less than 3 years. I'm originally from Australia. That's why I sound like this. We are all, as you can see, currently working from home. So in terms of that landscape, we've had a bit of a sort of a hybrid model in the last sort of 6 months. But unfortunately, our office is closed at the moment in the past month-ish. So it's been, yeah, really, really fantastic to work out how to work from home and how to study from home and do all these different things. So it's so great that we can join you guys in your bedrooms, lounge rooms, wherever you might be today. Excellent. So in terms of the sorts of things that we're chatting about, a bit to do with Power Platform that I will cover, then Felix will have a go and talk specifically about what it means in terms of tech at Uber. Then we'll hear from an engineer, that is Sendil. Then a real quick part about people and culture. So you'll not just hear about what we do, but actually how we do it and what the work life is like. And then also Q&A at the end there. We have everything happening in the chat, and yeah, we'll go from there. So in terms of a couple of quick questions for you guys, and feel free to use the chat. In terms of how many people, so this is my first question, how many people do you think are in the tech team, so working in engineering, product design, globally at Uber right now? Is it 100? Is it 200? How many people do you think there are globally? Would love to hear what your thoughts are. There's no wrong questions, no wrong answers. Just throw it in the around 5,000, a little bit less than 5,000, 20, just 20. Excellent. 700, around 4,000. Okay, some people have done their homework. I'm really, really impressed. Well done. So it is approximately 4,000. So yeah, that 3.5 to 4,000, depending on which areas that we have. And then using the thumbs up button, if anyone can find it as well. Thumbs up if you've ordered food in the last 6 months or so. Yeah, I'm seeing some thumbs up. Excellent. Kendrick, hopefully you ordered something delicious. So that is also another huge part of our business that we look at and that we ensure that's working on a daily basis. And then my last question for you guys is, how many accumulated trips do you think Uber has done globally since the start of Uber, since around 2008? 4 trillion, not quite up to the trillion mark, but we're getting there. Anyone else? Feel free to throw in any numbers. 100 million, 900 billion, 5.2 bin, which I think it's billion. Fantastic. So there's 700, 800 million, 2 billion. Okay, we've got a pretty wide aspects of each end. So it's approximately 200. It's approximately 20 billion trips so far. So that is across rides, that's across eats, freight, and all our different services there. So that's a few quick questions for you. Keep those in mind as we go through. So in terms of what we look at, we do ignite opportunity by setting the world in motion. Now, as I mentioned, this could be the world in motion in terms of a sandwich, or it could be for you to get to the airport. So lots of different areas of things. In terms of how it started, back in 2008, our founders were in Paris and just simply couldn't get get a taxi, sorry. And this sort of really came about with the idea of push a button and get a ride. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen here what our sort of very old school app looked like. It literally had one button and some little 2T cars there. And then we very much grew. So by the start of 2020, we were at around 17 billion trips and then have increased from there. And we are servicing 10,000 cities globally. So Amsterdam being one of them. Yeah. So then in terms of what we're looking for in the future, this is incredibly vital to not only just rest on our laurels and understand what the current business practices are, but have a look at what's next. So you can see here a couple of different aspects such as ATG, so our Advanced Technology Group, so self-driving cars. They are based, and the research departments are all based in the US, so in Pittsburgh mainly. Then we have to the right top of your screen, we have Uber Freight. That is within the US at the moment. We did used to have it in Europe, but we've just recently, about a month ago, sold that one to Sender. So some really interesting ideas going on there in terms of what the future of freight mobility is. And then, of course, Uber Air, so flying cars. It is one of our up-and-coming areas. We're hoping to pilot flights, little pun there, in 2023 with 3 cities, including Melbourne, which is my hometown. So really, really exciting to hear about that and see that. It's really hard for me to be able to say, here's exactly what we're up to in these sorts of areas, because it does change so often. But I've got a quick video to show you just in terms of what we're sort of looking like and what, fingers crossed, the future mobility will be. So I'll play that one. And then after that, I'll throw it across to Felix.
All right, thanks for that, Claire. Hi there, everyone. I'm Cees van Doorn. I'll be talking a bit about tech at Uber. So don't expect any super technical deep dives here, but it's more going to be sort of a high-level view of sort of the engineering teams in Amsterdam and Uber as a whole, and just sort of high-level things that they work on. A little bit about myself. So I have an undergraduate and a graduate degree in computer science from TU Delft. I did a bit in the middle there. I studied in Singapore, which is also incidentally why I took my first Uber trip, I think in 2015, which is where I totally fell in love with the product I now get to work on a daily basis. At the start of that degree, I was very much shifting to software engineering, things like you. But while I was in Singapore, I pivoted to more data-related stuff. I did some ML work. I then went on to do some AI research at the Volksbank, which is a Dutch bank. After graduating in 2018, I went straight to Uber. I started January 2019. Now I work as a product analyst, which is basically, in short, looking at data to identify how our products do and look for opportunities to develop new products. And I do that for our payments team. I think if we go to So yeah, the one thing is that obviously I work in the Netherlands. A lot of my friends always ask me, so it's like, why does Uber has such a big office in the Netherlands, and like, do you only work on stuff in the Netherlands? Tech at Uber is a very global function, so you get to call with people all over the world each and every day. So as you can see, we have offices in India, Bulgaria, Lithuania, Denmark, Netherlands, France. I think we're actually opening up one in Ireland, which is like so new that we didn't even get time. I just found it out like just for a presentation. The Brazil one's also pretty new, and then actually quite a few in the US. Even in some of these cities, we have multiple offices. So it's very funny that when I have a lot of coworkers in San Francisco and Palo Alto who don't actually think that they're in the same building and say, no, we have like 5 offices in the same street. It's just the scale is quite mind-boggling at times. Even more so, I think beyond the scale though, the Amsterdam team is quite tight because as you can see, we had about 170 engineers this year. I think we have about 3 teams. This is a picture from our team outing to the beach in the summer 2019 when it was still responsible to stand so close to each other. So I think the team is pretty, I think a lot of these people have actually joined pretty recently, even though our site was founded in 2014. I think most of these people have actually joined in the last 3 years or so. So it's been, and other than that, we're a site where even though there's multiple teams, there's quite a lot of interaction between the teams, a lot of knowledge sharing, tech talks, fun events, so both sort of formal and informal contact. So all in all, it feels like a very nice, cozy site to work on. Another question I get a lot from a lot of my friends is like, hey, you just work on an app, right? An app on a smartphone. I tried out myself. It should be a few hours of work, maybe 10, 20 engineers, that should be it, right? And then you get to explain them just how complex our business is. I always like the iceberg analogy here, just how big it is. So generally you start explaining, right, we have multiple apps, multiple lines of business. So we already see here in this slide, we see the rider app, which is where people order trips. Then we have the driver app, which is what people use to actually earn on the platform. Then the Eats app. And then sort of like we even see the freight app where it's pretty cool. You can order, just manage your freight stuff in an app. And then comes all the core platform stuff, sort of like money, sort of like payments processing, fraud checks, safety and compliance, maps. And that's where you get these immense code bases of almost 100 million lines of code. You do 3K microservices, and the 1K daily releases. That's just something where I think my limited software engineering experience is just where you maybe did like one release every 2-3 days and then about 1,000 in a day. That's it's pretty impressive. And all that code has to work in 69 countries across the world. So especially if you're like in the networking part, that can be quite an interesting challenge. And one of the sort of true challenges I've come to appreciate there quite recently is the fact that not all of these things aren't just virtual. Like what we do is like you push a button and something happens in the real world. And even also when as an engineer, you make mistakes, that has very real world consequences. For instance, in my team, payments, we've had like very sort of innocuous bugs where a string and an integer got flipped, and that meant thousands of people didn't get paid on time. And those are, I don't know, kind of frustrating things to see. Or I think I came across an incident the other day where seconds of lag would lead to, I don't know, fraudsters actually stealing a whole bunch of, like, trying to steal a whole bunch of money. And that's sort of the engineering challenges that you only see at sort of the scale that we operate on. I think, next slide. So to give you an idea of the Amsterdam site specifically, to just give you the top 3 are sort of the product areas, is where like the engineers in our teams kind of work on. And then the bottom 3 are are embedded within those top 3, but they are like the non-engineering functions that you also get to work with. Because my guess is that my understanding of your program is it's very focused on engineering, on software engineering. But at Uber, the tech team is considered to be engineering plus product plus UX plus data. So to give you an idea, the money is the biggest team in the Amsterdam site. And in short, we just try to enable anyone, anywhere to pay for Uber. So that means supporting different payment methods, making sure we're compliant with all kinds of payment and banking regulations across countries, And also, a big product for us is making, one that I've worked on recently, or this year mostly, is making sure that people can get paid within 20 seconds of finishing their trip, which is actually quite a big product. So imagine we have, I think we can now, to about 70% of our drivers across the world, we can get them paid within 30 seconds of them actually finishing the trip, which is quite unmatched by any bank in the world, which is super duper exciting. Then on to the other team, ad tech. So they make sure that our ad spends are optimized and automated, and that more people get to sort of become aware of Uber, and that they get, I think if you ever get to receive promos or coupons, it's a very high chance that this team has a part in that. And then the driver team, which is sort of deceiving name because it also deals with couriers. Basically, it deals with everyone who earns money on the Uber platform and uses Uber to earn money. One big focus for them is to make sure that it's very clear to them how their earnings came to be, because obviously we're doing business with them, and trust is a massive component in that. And if they don't trust like the money that they're actually being paid out, that's just a discussion you don't want to have. I think an interesting sub area that the Amsterdam team works on is also called driver access, which is something I had never thought of, but we actually have a lot of couriers and drivers in parts of the world where a large part of them are actually illiterate. So they try to use the app, but they actually can't read. And how do you engineer something that, even though they can't read, it's still easy to use and clear to sort of use? It's very niche, but an entertaining engineering challenge. And then to give you an idea of product or product management, big key for them is to make sure that the right things get built, and also very actively prioritize what not to build. As the Uber team is very big, lots of interesting ideas. And when you're hacking away at a project and you just want to build, you just think of features all the time. It's like, oh, let's build this. Once you get to the tight timelines and sort of scale we are at, you also have someone sort of actively say no to these things and make sure that we stick to the roadmap and make sure that we are building things that our customers want and need. Then UX and design, it's the Amsterdam studio, lots of great people there. They try to make sure that the user experience is clear, that it's localized properly as well. That's also a thing that what a user in the Netherlands wants to see is totally different from what someone in India would want to see, or Japan. I think Japan is a very specific example. What we had where we had figured out that the designs were a bit rushed, and it actually turned out that our Japan drivers absolutely hated it. And I think that 80 or 90% of people actually had trouble with it until a designer came in and sort of localized it better, or made it better suited to Japanese trends. And that's, underappreciated. If you come from a pure engineering background like me, you have to see this in practice just to see how valuable it is. And then my own team, data. I just look at all sorts of data, from logs to support tickets to do sort of external market research, to look at what should we be building, or what should we change on our existing products, or what products should we deprioritize. And I think I can keep talking about that one forever, but not the point of today. I think in case you're interested in teams outside of the Amsterdam site in Denmark, Aarhus specifically, we have a core infra team that I think they do a lot of our sort of continuous integration software or deployment software. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sendil. In Lithuania, we have site reliability to make sure that everything keeps running, because we have very, very strict uptime needs and reliability. And whenever something goes wrong, we need rapid response, and people highly focused on that area. And then in Bulgaria, it says backend financial systems. Their niche very much is tax and invoicing, which is very interesting to see how taxes are sort of computed differently across countries, and they need to be done absolutely right on every bill, especially for business customers, which is quite an interesting challenge that they face. I think the one that you might be interested in, very niche one, is Paris, where it's our European ATG office. I don't think we have any internship openings there, but it's good to know about that one in case you're interested in more hardcore ML research. I think other than that, I'll be giving over to Sendil for the meat of this presentation, and I hope you guys enjoy that.
Hey everybody, thanks Felix, thanks for the handover. It's great to see you all today. So a little bit about me. I'm Sandil. Next slide, please. Yeah. So I graduated and started my job at a consultancy and started working for Singapore Airlines around 2010ish. In 2013, I moved to Singapore. During this period, like I started developing application, including infrastructure, team management, project management, end-to-end development, things like that. After that, I moved to Netherlands around 2017. Here I started my open source journey, and then I also wrote my first book during this time, and I traveled almost all of Europe on the pretext of conference talks and things like that. It was a very exciting phase where I started traveling a lot, and after that, in 2019, I joined Uber. It was a completely different place for me, and by the beginning of this year, I also bought a house and rolled out my first application in Uber, and that was a huge success for me. Yeah, next slide, please. So why did I join Uber? The main reason why I joined Uber is like being an Uber, you can bring an impact to millions of people, and that kind of motivated me to join this company. Along with that impact, the last year was like, it's not only about delivering code and things like that. There were like a lot of heated discussion around code reviews, a lot of challenges, opportunities, and a lot of guidance and everything that you can expect inside an Uber-sized company. And here you have a very good, vibrant culture, and the team is really awesome that helps you, guides you, and you can also take part in that. And this is a region where you can actually evolve, right? So the next slide, please. So this was my first application, wallet.uber.com. So there are two types of users that are using Uber at a high level. Like one is the earner, the other one is spender. The earner is someone who earns money from Uber, and the spender is someone like us who spends money on Uber and then buy things. But traditionally, as a company, we had the single user pay system. So if you take an Uber app, for example, it's exclusively catered for a spender. And if you take a driver app, it's exclusively catered for an earner, right? And when I started this journey, wallet.uber.com was like, it's a product that kind of like puts everything, unifies everything, both the users, and deliver it to the application. It has its own level of complexities, but it was my first project also inside Uber. And yeah, this unique project is actually completely driven by the engineers inside the company. And right now we have like around 900 million unique users who are using this application, and they are also cashing out millions of dollars every week. And that is a massive application, massive thing that you can see. So I came in for an impact. I could deliver an impact within 6 to 8 months and deliver an application and roll it out globally. That was something I really enjoyed being in this company. Next slide, please. So let's explore what kind of opportunities or what kind of things that you can expect inside an Uber. We, of course, have more than 3K microservices, and there is a design team too inside Uber. There are like, you can generate applications. It can be Android and iOS. You can do web development inside Uber, and you can also join data. Felix is from data team, so you can also join data inside Uber, and there are many more things. So you have an opportunity where you need not confine yourself at one particular area of tech development, but you can gradually move to other areas. And you can explore those opportunities and learn a lot from those opportunities. Next slide, please. So how things work inside Uber. So we, of course, split into multiple teams, and each team comes under different organization, and those are the things that happens in all the company. But as an engineer, when you start developing a product, the very first thing that you're going to do is like write an ERD. ERD is nothing but engineering requirement document. So it's kind of a requirement analysis document where you put down what and how you're going to generate and what are the things that you're going to write inside the application. Once you write an ERD, you send it to entire company. So everybody inside Uber can take a look at those ERD, and then they can comment on it. They can say like, what are the things happening, whether it's right or wrong and things like that. So entire company looks the entire ERD. Next click, please. Yeah, and then approves it. Once it is approved, this entire thing is, you're going to generate the code and you're going to generate the application. So there is this box, which is your backend application, right? What is this? Clark, can you go back 2 slides? Can you go back 2? Yeah, so at the box, the blue one. So what is the programming language that comes to your mind when you see this box? Anybody? Any guesses? Python, Rust, C++, Go, PHP, Okay, this is Python. The person who said Python is correct. The next one, what's this?
By the way, guys, I have absolutely no idea. So whatever you think is great.
Any guess on this language? Blue box. Oh, wow, that's nice. No, this is actually Go. The next one. No, not JavaScript. No. The final, okay, that is Java, and the next one is Node.js. So the teams that are involved over here is infrastructure and engineering. So they are the people who takes care of like loading this application, deploying this, and then maintaining this entire thing. And once you have developed your application, this can be a backend system. So after that, you go ahead and create the product that is visible for the external world. So this gives a perspective of your application, of your company to the external world, right? So the teams involved here is design and engineering, who put up a prototype, who put up a user interface and things like that. So once you create this entire thing, once you deploy this, and then the next one. Yeah, and then you collect data from how the users are using your application. You find out what are the things that is happening inside your application. Is there any bugs? If there is something that is difficult for users, if there is something that is not working as you expected, you collect those events, you collect those information, and this is where data and engineering team comes into picture, where you kind of sit together and decide like what is going wrong with your application, what are the things that you could perfect, what are the things that you can enhance further. Once you have this data, once you have these events, the very next step is like you go and create an ARD, which would be a next application where you start building your next application or enhanced version of the product. Once you have done this entire thing, this is a loop that happens again and again until you perfect your product. Sometimes when we're doing this entire thing, we could build a product that is completely different from what we are. Like we are a transport kind of company, and we are going to build something for our infrastructure. Those are the times what we do is like, once we build those entire product, we kind of open source that entire application to the external world. So everybody can use it. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that is the other one. So once you create an application that is not critical to your line of business, we kind of open source it to the external world where people can use that and they can enjoy using that application. Next slide, please. So that is what Uber as a whole, how it works inside Uber. So let's go for a small, I hear from Mick that you all are like doing your courses on coding. So, and your main focus area is C++. So I have a good example in C++, which is an interesting bug fix that we have done. So let's see how many of you captures this thing. So we have the service A. The service A actually handles around 1,000 requests per second, and it's deployed once in every 2 weeks. And then you have the service B. Next clip, please. Yeah, you have the service B, which is 10 times more. It has 10K requests per second, and it also has deployed, but it is done once in every 4 weeks. That is a month. Next clip, please. So both the services are kind of using this code. So this code is running inside one service. The code, what it does is like, it's very simple. It's a C++ code. It is used for some cryptographic stuff. So that is the reason, like you have this environment object, and then you have this character array. So once you send these two things to get array function, it takes the length of the character array, and then it creates a new buffer. And once it creates, it goes to the environment and gets a value of the length that is given to you, and then puts that inside, and then returns the buffer. So the line number 3 or 4, environment get array, actually it's a meet of the function where it takes CA as an input, and then it puts the value inside buffer, and then it returns a buffer. This is what is happening. It returns an unsigned character array. That's it. Cool. And then we saw this memory usage for that entire application usage. So as you can see here, the red ones are the higher peak ones, and the blue ones are the minor small ones. So blue ones are for service A, and red ones are for service B. So as you can see here, usually all these services, the memory usage is like we have a buffer. If it reaches 100%, we have like a little bit more buffer such that the crashes are not happening at times. But we see a slight increase. Next clip, please. So we see a nice, we see that max capacity, but it's slightly going away. It's not a big problem for us, but as an engineer, you want to fix that thing, right? And the next slide, please. So what is the problem here? Someone said memory leak, but what someone said leak or memory leak? What is the leak that you're mentioning here?
I think it was Harm. Harm, are you able to chat or?
Yeah, maybe get array checks if buffers null. No, not really. Get array is fine. You allocate the buffer. Yeah, that's it. Ham gets it correct. So yeah, so that's cool. So we allocate the buffer and then we don't remove that entirely from it. So the memory is reserved there, and it takes time for it is not getting released at all, and you have a problem. So that's why you're seeing a memory peaks there. The next one, next slide, next week. So we spent a lot of time thinking what is going to happen and what are the things that we can fix this entire way. And it was like not very obvious when you see it, especially if it's a million lines of code, right? Next one. So we fixed it something like this. We created a string is automatically memory managed, right? So we deleted the buffer and then returned the message. That's basically it. So yeah, you have this kind of exciting fixes, exciting new features, just like validator.com, whatever you can build it inside Uber. That's basically it. With that, I hand it over to Clara.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Sendil. I'm glad you were explaining that, not me. So really quickly, guys, we've got a quick part about people and culture, what it all means, how we all do it, and then feel free to ask me any questions. So globally, and of course, Felix and Sendil to ask any questions for you guys as well. So globally, we have approximately 20,000 full-time employees. So that's not including anyone like a driver or a courier. That's just purely our staff that work on these sorts of problems. Majority of them are an operations sort of profile. So apart from our approximately 4,000 tech team, we have a lot of operations. Operations, in a really, really quick word, is anything to do with supply and demand of the platform. So some of those roles can be quite technical in terms of marketplace sorts of positions. So working a lot with SQL and Python in terms of those roles, then others can be more to do with promotions, marketing, all those different areas. So it really is a completely and utterly sort of wide in terms of all the different sorts of positions and the sorts of people. On top of that, in terms of our cultural norms, so the reason they're cultural norms and not cultural values is because we believe that we are quite a flexible and fungible kind of company. And so we're making sure that our norms may and can change over time. One thing that I think is really, really valid within our cultural norms is particularly that we do celebrate those differences. So you've heard from 3 different people today from 3 different countries who can speak all sorts of different languages. We're a really good representation of just how many different nationalities. In the Amsterdam office specifically, I think we're approximately around 60 different nationalities. And growing. So it is really, really fun in terms of getting to know all the different cultures and understandings and just to have different ways of working. One thing that Dara, our CEO, really, really champions is that we do the right thing, period. So just trying to ensure that we're as transparent as possible in all sorts of things that we do, and to try and ensure that our team goes and works towards the future. We're very, very cognizant in the fact that we've come a long way from 2008. Think about how you used to try and get from A to B when, particularly when traveling and things like that, but we still have a very, very long way to go in terms of that. So many different areas. So as I was explaining before, celebrating differences, we do have employee resource groups. So these are groups for the people, by the people, particularly Lady Eng and Women at Uber is one of our really, really core groups and our largest globally. So lots of different resources, events, initiatives. Pay parity was a major one, just to ensure that we are coming across and pretty much investing in terms of our futures. So one thing that I'm in charge of, apart from lots of other things, is our Amsterdam internship programs. We are currently recruiting for interns to start in January and also in July of 2021. In terms of the sorts of roles that you can expect within this, is very much being embedded in a team, solving problems on a daily basis with both virtual and hybrid sort of in-person set up at the moment. We do pay our interns. This is incredibly important. So an intern in Amsterdam gets paid approximately 3,000 euros per month. And then you also get credits to spend in the app as well. So a bunch of really, really fantastic opportunities there. I have sent across the link specifically to Victoria, who's heading up your partnerships area at Codam, but also more than happy to connect with any of you in terms of getting an internship into the future and getting some real hands-on experience, which is always really great. So in terms of how that all works, we always have this question, how do I actually get a role into the future? So in terms of that, you apply online, you have a talk with someone like myself, you then could do a coding challenge. So that is using whatever coding language of choice. We give approximately 3 hours to complete it, but it doesn't take usually that long. Then you have a team interview, so that's 3 separate interviews, and then we give you feedback from your interviews and hopefully give you an offer. So that is it.